Today on Spotlight, find out what St. Louisans have to do with the legendary Tuskegee Airmen. Plus, a SLU expert says Vietnam veterans are at higher risk for Alzheimer's. Find out what help is on the way. And then how golf is uplifting our nation's heroes in life and on the green. But first, it started with a few cover bands. Now it's changing hundreds of lives for those who serve. It's Sunday, and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight. Since 2013, Songs for Soldiers has harnessed the power of music to support combat veterans and their families, raising funds through concerts, donations, and community events. This year marked their 12th annual benefit concert. We first caught up with the organization in 2017 when Brett Michaels headlined the show.
Standing here with a ton of people out there ready to rock, ready to party. And I always say this, we get to be here to honor our veterans. I'm a son of a veteran. I come from a family of all veterans. I love it.
Are you ready to rock and roll?
Songs for Soldiers, it's simple. We help combat veterans. We're kind of two entities. We're a benefit concert, and then we're also a charity that does work all year. And they're both doing this. They're both growing at the same time. We need to keep having a bigger show to raise more money because more veterans are coming to us year in and year out, which is awesome.
And may the good Lord forgive us for the party we're about to have in this park here tonight.
Whether you even support war or don't, we're here because war happens and extremely normal people are the ones that have to fight them. We're here to help those people. And I'm a veteran, so I know how to help veterans.
My southern my southern drawl.
When I was a junior in high school, I started feeling this pull to join the military. So I joined in June 2001, and my senior year, September 11th, 2001, I was sitting in government class and watching the second plane hit the building. So there I go. In our job, instead of driving fuel trucks, they trained us to escort fuel vehicles, and that's what we did in Iraq. And we lost 2 guys. I was in a convoy attack that was like the worst attack on a supply convoy in the history of the war. Our truck was the only truck out of the 26 vehicle convoy where neither one of us were dead or wounded. And that was kind of like my little bit of a battle, I guess, that I fought. Like, I struggled with that. When I got home, I also was still just completely blinded because I came home to this beautiful town. I didn't have a parade, but what I'm saying is everybody was really nice. Buy me a round of golf, buy me a drink, and I was just turned off from what was going on after that. Over there, kind of, and then with guys that I'd served with. And a few years passed after we'd been home, and my buddy Brian called me and said, hey, Ricky killed himself. I was like, man. And that was kind of the thing that made me wake up a little bit. I'm a musician, and I just really wanted to figure out my blessings and channel them into something to help fellow combat veterans out. And 2013, and I was out mowing the city park here in town for the city, and I looked over at this baseball field, and I was like, boom, Songs for Soldiers. Yeah, let's do a concert called Songs for Soldiers. The original goal was to help 4 combat veterans a year, as you see in our name, Songs for Soldiers. Here we are, our 5th show, and we've spent over $350,000 on over 240 combat veterans. We've helped several veterans with dentures because unless it's service connected, the VA doesn't cover dentures. So many car repairs, that utility bill, that medical bill. We even helped a veteran start his own small business. We helped Frank, World War II veteran in Decatur. We gave him a wheelchair ramp so he can go outside. We helped John, and he found an alternative therapy in making art.
I'm an Air Force veteran. I served in the United States Air Force for 14 years. I struggle with PTSD. My Vet Center counselor, he had told me that there was an organization that can go ahead and actually help veterans. I had made contact with Songs for Soldiers, and from there, Dustin Rowe, he had provided me a potter's wheel. This is my first piece that I ever made. I never knew that I had an outlet of art in my life. It's something that I'll go ahead and continue with for the rest of my life. So I really appreciate it.
I think we've created something that everybody feels like they have their small piece in. We're all volunteer in this organization. And we basically start planning each year's show about a week after that last year's show.
I saw the passion he had in his eyes. I was like, I'm in, I want to help, whatever I can do. So I started on the committee from the very beginning.
If you come to the show, you're going to see a very affordable show, comfortable show. So we keep ticket prices low. Bring your lawn chair, sit with your neighbors, sit next to somebody you don't know. And so at the same time, the uniqueness about it is, even though it's a small town show, we bring a big time production. So I go out and I feverishly get tons of sponsorship money to cover such a thing. And the sponsors basically have this whole thing paid for. And so 100% of the proceeds that we raise goes to helping combat veterans after this. There is a special feeling about concerts in general. And ours is just magnified because our concert creates a year's worth of work. It's not just over when it's over, it's when it starts. Start all over again. It's just beautiful.
To learn more about Songs for Soldiers, visit songsforsoldiersstl.org.
HEC Media has 6 YouTube channels, including science, history, art, authors, Black History Achievement and Culture, and all things St. Louis. Find your favorite, then scroll down to explore HEC Media's other partner channels, all on YouTube.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, President of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. They were called an experiment, and many expected them to fail. Instead, the Tuskegee Airmen soared into history, proving their skill in the skies over Europe while fighting discrimination at home. Soldiers Memorial Director Mark Sunlove tells the story of these trailblazing men and women and the lasting impact they made on both the military and civil rights.
The Tuskegee Airmen defied expectations and changed history. These brave men and women fought for a double victory during World War II, one against hate and discrimination right here at home, and one against fascism in Europe. Soon after the dawn of the aviation age, the U.S. military quickly realized that future militaries would depend on air power, and to depend on air power, they would need skilled pilots. In 1939, with the looming potential of the U.S. entrance into World War II, the U.S. government created the Civilian Pilot Training Program. Although officially designed to develop civilian pilots, it was clear that these civilian pilots, once trained, could quickly become military pilots. The Tuskegee Institute in Alabama soon began one of 6 pilot training programs for black men. At the time, the U.S. military has systematically excluded black men and women from serving in anything but menial, low-skilled positions. Certainly, the U.S. had no intention of enabling black civilian pilots to become black military pilots. However, in 1939, Public Law 18 passed. It authorized the War Department to train black military pilots. The department dragged its feet, but with pressure from the black press, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, civil rights activists, and politicians, the Tuskegee Institute began training black men as military pilots and in all other support roles needed for a military air operation. Typically referred to as an experiment, most racists were convinced the men and women of the unit would fail. They couldn't be more wrong. The trailblazers of the Tuskegee Airmen would show that they were made of all the right stuff. Nearly 1,000 men became pilots in the unit, and another 13,000 served as mechanics, ground crew members, bomber plane crews, administrative staff, and everything else it took to keep the planes in the air. Over 90 St. Louisans served in the Tuskegee Airmen. One of the primary missions was escorting the slow, lumbering bomber planes to their targets. As escorts, the pilots developed a reputation for excellence. When those bomber crews looked out their plane and saw the famous red-painted tails of the Tuskegee Airmen, they knew they were being escorted by some of America's finest fighter pilots. Without a doubt, the excellence shown by these men and women contributed to President Truman's executive order desegregating the United States military in 1948. Fighting for a double victory, the Tuskegee Airmen helped defeat fascism abroad and made significant progress in the fight for civil rights at home.
Next week on History Spotlight, Meet the St. Louis-born cowgirl who became a Wild West sensation.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media, bringing you culture and community. Find all of HEC's positive programming and award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Vietnam veterans and their families face growing concerns as more and more Vietnam War veterans are now part of the aging population of Americans ages 65 and older.
Vietnam veterans now are approaching or already are in their prime risk years for Alzheimer's disease.
Dr. George Grossberg is the Henry and Amelia Nasrallah Professor of Geriatric Psychiatry.
We know that the veteran population is aging quite rapidly, that they're of that era, that they've served as soldiers in one capacity or another in Vietnam. Those that did have a lot of risk factors as they're getting older. One thing that we see quite often is post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, with nightmares, all kinds of, terrible symptoms of PTSD, which we now think, and there's some evidence, may be a risk factor for the later development of Alzheimer's disease.
As a geriatric psychiatrist, Dr. Grossberg treats patients through the SLU Care Physician Group with SSM Health.
Geriatric psychiatry is psychiatry for people over the age of 65.
There are Vietnam veterans and their families seeking his help, taking that first step into the interview room. And when they do, it's not just the post-traumatic stress disorder that's worrisome.
The other issue that these veterans face, besides aging, PTSD being a risk factor, is that many of them had exposure in Vietnam to napalm and other toxic chemicals, that these chemicals are neurotoxic, that they could cause toxic effects, deleterious effects, bad effects on the nervous system in general, as well as on the brain, potentially being an additional risk factor for an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. So it's a double whammy.
Over the years, research reveals more risk factors for Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. PTSD may top the list for aging war veterans now and in the future, but Dr. Grossberg says depression is another big one.
It's one of the things we've done some work on, depression as a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. So it's very important to recognize and treat depression.
He also urges veterans with hearing loss to get treated.
Unaddressed hearing loss is a huge risk factor for Alzheimer's disease.
There are new treatments for Alzheimer's disease and more in the pipeline.
There's a very rich pipeline, which means that there are new medications that are moving toward potential approval for not just Alzheimer's disease, but for the psychiatric or neuropsychiatric symptoms of Alzheimer's disease that are the most common and often most impactful. Agitation is one of them. Psychosis, where patients start to hallucinate or become paranoid or accusatory. Depression in Alzheimer's disease is also very impactful because if we don't recognize and treat it, that can accelerate the progression of Alzheimer's disease. And then the last one, which is probably the least appreciated, very, very common in Alzheimer's disease, is apathy, lack of motivation. I call it being a serious couch potato.
He's involved with the research and development of new treatments for Alzheimer's disease and its symptoms.
I'm a sought-after consultant in these areas. Help to design the studies and then wait for the results and help to interpret the results and help to publish the results and share them educationally with the field. So I really have my finger on the pulse of what's happening nationally.
Later on Spotlight, why one man was honored at France's 80th anniversary of D-Day.
This is a scene that plays out all over the country. Golfers taking lessons to better their game. But for some military veterans, golf is more than recreation. It can be a lifesaver.
I was in a dark place before I found golf. I was, I wasn't getting out of the house much. I was disappointed and hard on myself, thought I was a failure.
52-year-old Desert Storm veteran Bobby Hutchinson is an above-the-knee amputee. He lost his leg 15 years ago after 2 decades of living in pain. Those years of suffering stem from an injury he incurred while serving in the Persian Gulf.
Did you ever expect that you'd be on a putting green and with your prosthetic leg back when you were having those dark days?
No, I was pretty discouraged in the beginning because I couldn't get the fit right. You know, it's a learning process. So getting involved with the rec therapy program and then finding PGA Hope really gave me a purpose. There it is.
Hutchinson enjoys golf so much these days, he makes it his job to share the sport with other veterans as an ambassador for the Gateway chapter of PGA Hope.
PGA Hope stands for Helping Our Patriots Everywhere. It's a 6-week free introduction to golf program in partnership with VA hospitals, veteran services centers, any outlet that serves military veterans and active duty personnel.
Not only are the lessons free for veterans, but anything to do with golf, from range fees to golf clubs, thanks to private and corporate donations and fundraising events.
Today we're here to support you all. This is our way of giving back to you for your service. Thank you all for your service to our country.
The ability to play golf is boundless. We have individuals that come with maybe loss of limb or some PTSD, or individuals with Parkinson's, and our PGA professionals work hard to make sure that the game is adaptable to serve anyone with any ability.
I never was an active duty soldier, but I worked at Scott Air Force Base. I was the golf pro there at Cardinal Creek. I knew who we were taking care of and who we were serving.
Whitmore Country Club head golf pro Brian Main brought PGA Hope to our area after developing the program with local veterans in 2011. He's seen it grow from 12 members to over 200, with chapters all over Missouri and Illinois, thanks to the help of other golf pros and PGA Hope board member and Baseball Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith, an avid golfer himself.
It's less body, it's more shoulders.
Every pro that volunteers makes a commitment to become certified in adaptive training, learning how to teach those who may have lost a limb.
So that's an issue too sometimes, like my knee will kind of buckle.
There's so many individuals too that have these hidden wounds that, whether it's stress, trauma, all these things, we've learned to adapt, and we learn to fit, kind of like teaching, into each and every individual differently. I've prayed with them, I've hugged them, I talk about other things beside golf, because a lot of times these individuals, a lot of them may not have somebody at home, but to make that connection, to learn their stories and to learn about them is very special.
I think once you make that commitment, you come out to the first clinic and you get around other veterans, and just everything starts coming back. You can talk to each other about stories where you served, and you feel comfortable. Like no one's judging you. Everybody's service is different.
What was your name? Henry. My name is Ryan.
22 veterans a day commit suicide, and so if this can help one veteran get out of the house, get around other veterans, find that camaraderie, that sense of belonging and purpose again. And if it could save one life, it's worth it.
Golf trophies are now front and center in Hutchinson's life ever since he's been competing in the adaptive golf tournament circuit, something he never thought possible a decade ago.
I won the senior division at Nationals last year. I made like a 65-footer for birdie on the very last hole.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel, Spotlight STL from HEC Media.
On June 6, 1944, at midnight, Operation Overlord launched the landing and airborne operations of the Allied invasion of Normandy. Codename Operation Neptune was the largest seaborne invasion in history. This operation was pivotal to the liberation of France and the rest of Western Europe.
D-Day approaches, and the ships are in their assigned positions.
the age of 22, St. Louisan Captain Ralph Goldsticker served 35 missions during World War II as a bombardier. It was a dangerous job that required keen awareness and precision.
I sat in the very nose of the plane, the plexiglass nose, and dropped the bombs. And I had to arm the bombs before we went to 10,000 feet. Generally, we'd arm the bombs going over the channel. They had to take the cotter pin out, so when the bomb hits the ground, the detonator would hit the explosive. You're sitting there looking out and had a great view until you see all that black flak right in front of you. Flak was our greatest enemy. I mean, the flak is an artillery shell that explodes at your altitude. They know by radio and radar exactly your altitude and where you're going to be. And it bursts into 1,000 pieces. And when I went overseas, there was 25 missions, and before D, they raised it to 30, I guess losing too many crews. And after D-Day, they raised it to 35 because the Luftwaffe had been shot down pretty well. The purpose of the 8th Air Force really was destroy the German ability to wage war. And our priorities were oil refineries, ball bearing plants, railroad junctions, and aircraft factories. That's what it bombed mostly. It was all strategic bombing at that time.
During one mission, their plane was hit and the co-pilot was injured.
Our co-pilot was injured, and a piece of flak over Munich, we were at 27,000 feet, and a burst of flak right under us and knocked out 2 engines, and a piece of flak came through the bottom of the plane. Well, we had 70 holes, but one of them came through the bottom of the plane. The pilot sat on an armored seat, maybe a 1/4 inch thick, went through the co-pilot's upper thigh and out the roof. And I was a medical officer, so I gave him a shot of morphine and sprinkled sulfa on his wound.
Fortunately, Captain Ralph Goldsticker made it safely through the war.
I participated. I'm glad I survived. That was it. After my 35th mission.
On the 80th anniversary of Normandy, at the age of 102, Ralph Goldsticker was one of 66 chosen World War II veterans to be a part of the historical D-Day event in France.
Well, I was honored to be asked because American Airlines had 66 veterans from all over the country. And I think I was asked because I flew 2 missions D-Day. It was all coordinated by Appleton, Wisconsin honor flight. And on our flight, we had 66 veterans aged from 95 to 107. And we had 66 guardians. My son from Dallas flew with me. And there are also 20 medical personnel. There are 4 doctors and assistants with them. And there are also 50 cadets and midshipmen from the academies to help us. The thing that impressed me most about the entire trip probably is the American cemetery at Normandy. All these crosses and Star of Davids, and they're all kids. I mean, 19, 20, 21. Some of them I knew, a few. But that got to me more than anything else.
While in France, Ralph Goldsticker and his son had the opportunity to meet the United States President and the First Lady.
I met the President, and he gave me a specially minted D-Day coin. This is it for D-Day, and those are the 2 outstanding things, I think.
The 80th D-Day anniversary event in Normandy attracted people and paratroopers from around the world to commemorate the hundreds of Allied soldiers who parachuted into Normandy during D-Day. We had a chance to hear from 2 USA families in Colorado who individually took it upon themselves to paratroop jump train prior to the historical Normandy 80th anniversary paratroop jump event. Interestingly, they were also flown in actual historical planes that transported paratroopers during D-Day.
Jumping into France it was a beautiful one. We did it in nice clear days and blue skies and great open fields. It wasn't quite the rough air and difficult night that those guys jumped into, but at least it was a chance to honor them and honor their service, honor their sacrifice in a way that's, I guess, the best way that we could do here 80 years later.
The Round Canopy Parachute Team, I just can't say enough about them. That is a life-changing group. Learning from them how to control and manage my fears as I was jumping, truly remarkable. But then to take that experience over to the beaches of Normandy and to fly over such hallowed ground. Everyone, go to Normandy on an anniversary. You will not regret it.
To do those jumps, to be able to pay honor and tribute to the men and women who gave their lives 80 years prior was one of the most memorable experiences I have in my life. And to jump out, to lead your team, and then after the first 4 seconds of pure exhilaration, then to float and realize that you're floating above Normandy, France, and landing into a DZ that was an active DZ 80 years ago. That many people did not survive the landing. It was an amazing experience, once in a lifetime bucket list.
Next week, it's not a maze, it's a path to peace. Discover where you can slow down at a new labyrinth in town. Plus, think you know Missouri? Wait until you see the weird and wonderful side. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.